Have you ever heard the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? For Queen Elizabeth I of England, that enemy wasn't a soldier on a battlefield or a king across the sea. It was her own cousin Mary, Queen of Scots. Elizabeth had already outlasted one queen named Mary, her own half-sister, Bloody Mary. She probably thought she was done with troublesome Marys, but she was wrong. This new Mary was a problem of a different kind. She didn't arrive in England with an army. She arrived as a refugee, a queen without a kingdom, seeking help. But to Elizabeth, she was more dangerous than any invading force. Why? Because Mary Stuart wasn't just some foreign royal. She was young, beautiful, and Catholic in a newly Protestant England. And most importantly, she had a direct blood claim to the English throne through her grandmother, Margaret Tudor, who was the sister of Elizabeth's own father, Henry VIII. This made Mary a living, breathing challenge to Elizabeth's rule, a claim sharper and more potent than any sword. For Elizabeth, who had fought her whole life to be seen as the legitimate heir, Mary was a walking embodiment of all her deepest insecurities. She was a constant reminder of the questions surrounding Elizabeth's own legitimacy, her Protestant faith, and her unmarried status. The two queens were like night and day. Elizabeth was the Virgin Queen, a master of political calculation who ruled with her head. She was cautious, pragmatic, and always played the long game. Mary, on the other hand, was a creature of passion. She ruled with her heart, married for love or what she thought was love, and trusted people she shouldn't have. Where Elizabeth built her power on restraint, Mary's reign was a whirlwind of emotion, romance, and scandal. Her personal life was a public spectacle, and each of her disastrous marriages only weakened her position back in Scotland. First, there was her marriage to the French Dauphin, making her Queen of France for a brief, glittering moment. After his death, she returned to Scotland, a young widow, and married her cousin Lord Darnley. It was a love match that quickly soured into a nightmare of jealousy and violence. Darnley was arrogant and unstable, and their relationship culminated in the shocking murder of Mary's Italian secretary, David Rizzio, right in front of her. Then Darnley himself was murdered in a mysterious explosion, and just a few months later, Mary married the chief suspect in his murder, the Earl of Bothwell. Whether she was a willing accomplice or a victim of circumstance, the marriage was a political catastrophe. It turned the Scottish lords against her, leading to a rebellion that forced her to abdicate her throne in favor of her infant son, James. Defeated and desperate, Mary made the fateful decision to flee Scotland and cross the border into England, throwing herself on the mercy of her cousin, Elizabeth. She arrived expecting sanctuary, perhaps even an army to help her reclaim her throne. Instead, she walked right into a gilded cage. Elizabeth saw the danger instantly. This wasn't a guest. This wasn't just a cousin in need. This was a lightning rod for every Catholic plot and every disgruntled nobleman in England who wanted to see Elizabeth overthrown. Mary was a symbol, a Catholic alternative to the Protestant queen, and her very presence on English soil was an open invitation to rebellion. So what was Elizabeth to do? She couldn't just let her go. A free Mary, potentially backed by Catholic powers like France or Spain, was a terrifying prospect. She couldn't execute her either, not yet. The act of a monarch executing another anointed monarch was unthinkable. It would set a dangerous precedent and could spark an international war. So Elizabeth chose a third option, a solution that was both cunning and cruel. She placed Mary under house arrest. It wasn't a dungeon, but a series of comfortable, stately homes. Mary was treated as a queen with servants and luxuries, but she was a prisoner all the same. This gentle confinement would last for nearly 19 years. For almost 2 decades, Mary lived in a strange limbo, a queen with no power, a guest who could never leave. As the years slipped by, the plots Elizabeth had feared began to take shape. Coded letters were smuggled in and out of Mary's residences. The Ridolfi plot, the Throckmorton plot, the Babington plot, each one aimed to assassinate Elizabeth and place Mary on the throne. And with each discovered plot, Mary's guilt seemed more certain, and the calls for her execution grew louder in Elizabeth's court. This is where Elizabeth's genius for politics really shone. She had learned a crucial lesson that Mary never did. A rival doesn't need to be free to be a threat. All they need is to be alive. All they need is to offer hope to your enemies. By keeping Mary a prisoner, Elizabeth turned her into the perfect political tool. Mary became the most dangerous prisoner in Europe, constantly inspiring rebellion, yet completely helpless to lead it. Elizabeth could use the plots swirling around Mary to expose and eliminate her own domestic enemies. She could point to the constant threat Mary posed to rally support from her Protestant subjects and from Parliament. All the while, Mary wrote desperate letters, proclaimed her innocence, and wove tapestries that often contained hidden symbols of her royal claim and her suffering. She was playing a game of survival, but Elizabeth was playing a game of chess, and she was always several moves ahead. Elizabeth had already demonstrated immense patience in her youth, surviving the reigns of her brother and sister to finally claim her crown. Now she was engaged in a different kind of waiting game, testing how long a queen and a kingdom could endure the slow-burning fuse that was Mary, Queen of Scots. The longer Mary lived, the more danger she attracted. It was a deadly waiting game, and only one queen could come out on top. Elizabeth knew she had to wait for the perfect moment, for undeniable proof that would force her hand and justify the unthinkable. The final act of this royal tragedy was yet to be written, and it would be sealed not with a treaty, but with an axe. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the dramatic lives of historical figures, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories from the past. See you next time.